What's up everyone, this is DR with WoW Breakdown 101, and today we're going to be going over the normal Nazgrim melee point of view guide in the Siege of Orgrimmar. As with all of my point of view guides, I will break down the fight like a puzzle piece by piece, step by step, to help you get past the encounter. I will not go over how to down this boss as a raid, so if you're a raidling, then you will need to click the fatboss link below, otherwise this guide is all you will need. The first thing we'll go over in this encounter is going to be positioning. There are two ways that you will position the boss depending on what strategy you use. If your raid is range heavy and you are the only melee DPS, then I recommend that your raid position the boss next to the door and have only your range deal with the adds, and you as a melee DPS will just stay on the boss. If you will be losing too much DPS that way, then you could take Nazgrim in the center of the room so that your melee DPS can get to the adds much quicker. Now I'm going to cover this boss fight as though you are handling the adds. If you're on the boss the whole time, then you only deal with the adds during Nazgrim's defensive stance. Unless you have a taunt and can get one stack of the debuff that he applies on you, this will allow you to continue to do damage to Nazgrim even during his defensive stance. I don't recommend this unless you're having an issue with the enrage timer. Now I'm going to go over hero for this encounter. There are 3 points which raids pop hero during this encounter. One is to hero on the pool. For the normal encounter is the most optimal time to pop hero. The other is to hero on the second berserker stance. And the third is to pop hero at 10% to push the boss down while the flood of adds are coming out. You will want to make sure to know when your raid is going to pop hero. The reason for this is to help dictate when you as a melee DPS are going to pop your second burst pot. You will always pre-pop before the pool to get a good pull. You will always use your second burst pot at the 10% mark in the encounter unless your raid is going to hero on the second berserker stance, at which point you will pop your burst pot during that hero. Now let's go over what you're going to be doing as a melee DPS in this encounter and how you will get past the encounter. When you start the encounter, you're going to go for the best pull that you could possibly get, as you're going to get 45 seconds on the boss without having to deal with any of the adds. This is another reason it is best to pop hero on the pool, because it's the only time during the encounter that your entire raid will be on the boss for the length of a hero. There are 5 abilities that the boss does that you will need to deal with and be aware of. The first of these abilities is Bone Cracker, which you will place on a random raid member that applies a bleed that does moderate physical damage. This lasts 30 seconds, and just be aware when this ability is on you. You will not pop a defensive cooldown for this alone. Now the next 4 abilities that the boss does depends on what rage he is at and when he is going to cast those abilities. Watch your boss mod timers to see which ability he is most likely going to cast next. The first rage ability that he does is Heroic Shockwave, which Nazgrim will leap to the location of a random raid member, dealing large physical damage to everyone within 10 yards. This almost always targets ranged and will never target you if you're in melee range of the boss. However, after Nazgrim lands, there will be fire lines on the ground that will explode after 3 seconds. Anyone caught in the aftershocks of this ability will take fire damage and give Nazgrim rage. If you're in the red lines, just move out of them ASAP, even if it means losing DPS on the boss. The next ability is Corcoran Banner, and you, as a melee DPS, will only deal with this if you're in melee range of the boss. Take it out ASAP. If you have any executes that give you back resources, use those on the banner to help you gain some DPS on the boss. The third ability, and the one that you will want to pop a defensive cooldown for, is War Song, which Nazgrim will cast at 70 to 99 rage. This is a raid-wide damaging ability that causes everyone in the raid to take 50% of their maximum HP as physical damage. If you have Bone Cracker on you while this ability comes in, you can be in danger of dying. That is why it is important to pop defensive cooldown or healing on yourself for this ability. The last ability that costs rage is Ravager, which he will cast at 100 rage, and you will just have to move out of and not get hit by the spinning weapon that is going across the room. This can be a pain as a melee DPS, so if Ravager is preventing you from getting to the boss, then tell your tanks to reposition the boss, as they will be getting hit by Ravager, giving the boss extra rage. You as a melee DPS will going to get in position 2 seconds before the adds spawn so that you can pick them up. There are 2 areas at the back of the room that adds will spawn from. As a melee DPS, you're only going to worry about 2 of the 4 adds, and I will explain why. The 2 adds you will not worry about are going to be the Corcoran Iron Blades, as they pose no real threat to the raid and will cause you to take high physical damage from their Iron Storm. Just let the tanks pick these up, or if that is the only add left, bring it to the tanks so that they can get aggro on it. The last add that you will not worry about as a melee DPS is going to be the Corcoran Archweavers, and the reason for this is the Unstable Blink ability can have you chasing this add 6 seconds across the room for you to get about 2 to 3 seconds of DPS on the add. Just let your range handle those 2 adds. Now, starting from the most important add that you as a melee DPS will deal with is the Corcoran War Shamans. These cast healing abilities that can target the boss and cause a wipe if the boss is healed too much. Also, if you have an aggro on the shaman, which in most cases as a melee DPS, you will want to make sure that you stun the shamans as much as possible and blow them up. They do heavy damage, and if you get Bone Cracker on you while you have a shaman on you, then you can be near 1 or 2 shot from the combination of the abilities. Once the boss is in defensive stance, you will just hang out at the back of the room where the ads spawn and wait for them. Doing any damage to the boss in defensive stance will cause him to gain rage, which you don't want. Every defensive stance there will be 2 sets of ads before defensive stance ends. So even if you're assigned to just blow up the boss, help with the second set of ads that comes out in the defensive stance, then return to the boss. Also, make absolutely sure that you save all of your offensive cooldowns for the boss, especially when he is in Berserker stance, as Nazgrim takes extra damage during this phase. Once the boss is closing in on 10%, you will ignore all the ads, have one of your tanks pick up the ads while the other tank picks up Nazgrim, and ensures that he is close to the door. You will blow up the boss and kill Nazgrim even if he is in defensive stance. Once Nazgrim is at 10% life, a flood of ads will continue to come out until he is dead, so it's a DPS race till the end. This is the reason that you will want that burst pot for the last 10% of the encounter, so you're going to pop every offensive and defensive cooldown you have left at this point in the encounter. That is all I have for this encounter, and this encounter is a very DPS demanding fight, as your DPS will have to work together and ensure that the ads go down in the correct order and as fast as possible, not to mention surviving and stunning, slowing ads. Go out there and have fun, guys. If this guide helped you out any at all, then give me a like, share, and subscribe to keep up with future guides and content. Have fun, and see you again next time.